That's good. I didn't write an intro. There's a really neat study involving vegans that I wanted to talk about. Cardiometabolic effects of omnivorous versus vegan diets in identical twins, a randomized clinical trial. This is a Stanford-led trial. It was just published. It involves 44 participants, 22 sets of twins. What they did is put one twin on an omnivorous diet and one twin on a vegan diet, and they would eat those diets for 8 weeks. During the first phase, which was the first 4 weeks, they were given pre-made meals, a breakfast and a lunch and a dinner, and then whatever else they needed, they were supposed to provide for themselves using the guidelines, the diet guidelines. And then for phase 2, they didn't receive any meals. They were supposed to prepare meals for themselves, again, going by the guidelines. One set of twins dropped out after phase 1, which pretty good. Only once. That's surprising to me, but only one. So there were 42 total participants at the end of the trial. LDL was the main aim, the primary outcome of the study. How did LDL change from baseline to 8 weeks? And how does this differ between the two groups? They also tested HDL, glucose, fasting insulin, fasting triglycerides, body weight, TMAO, B12, weirdly, and diet satisfaction. They also collected info on what the participants were eating during the trial by doing 9 of these 24-hour dietary recalls. So 3 at the beginning of the trial, 3 at 4 weeks, and 3 at 8 weeks. And basically a registered dietitian would call them and ask them what they ate. So the main strength of this study, the part that's being promoted the most, is obviously the twin angle, which makes sense. Typically when a study like this is done, even if it's randomized, you can't really rule out genetic differences. So, all right, you have vegans with lower cholesterol levels. Well, maybe that's because the omnivore group just happens to have more people with a genetic predisposition for heart disease, that sort of thing. But here, genetic differences are all but removed. They're twins, and environmental ones as well, right? These were twins who know each other. They grew up together. Most of them still live together. Another benefit is that these people were selected to be vegan. They were not already vegan. Now, again, they knew going into this that if they were chosen to be vegan, they'd have to eat vegan for 8 weeks. But by all accounts, they weren't like looking forward to being vegan.
I had to talk her into it.
Really?
She did.
Were either one of you jealous because one was an omnivore and the other one had to be vegan?
Yes!
I wasn't jealous.
I was jealous.
I needed a lot of support at the beginning, and I'm calling my sister. I'm like, what do I do?
You're not quitting, you're not quitting,
I have to have eggs and meat all 3 meals.
This rules out the possibility that people who choose veganism for themselves are maybe fundamentally different in some way, we don't know, that affects health outcomes. Another major benefit of this study, this is similar to that German study I talked about very recently, both diets were designed to be healthy. They were both designed to encourage fruits and vegetables, right? Fiber, whole grains, and to discourage added sugar. Senior author Christopher Gardner, he also runs the nutrition department at Stanford. He said he didn't want to set up like a straw man, right? He didn't want to just compare a vegan diet to like a typical, obviously unhealthy omnivore diet. We already know a typical omnivore diet is unhealthy. It will lose every time to a vegan diet, really to any diet. So both groups, again, encouraged to eat healthy, and unsurprisingly, the quality of their diets improved. They started eating more fruits and vegetables, less added sugar, less refined grains, more fiber. So they did this for 8 weeks, and they did have a lot of help as well. They had a lot of assistance from dietitians. I believe they would even put their food into a chronometer, and dietitians would look over it, give them feedback. I mean, yeah, pretty helpful. So some of the results after 8 weeks really weren't that exciting, right? No differences between HDL, triglycerides, glucose. No difference in B12 either, but like we wouldn't expect to see a difference. Even though the vegan participants were not instructed to take a B12 supplement, you wouldn't expect to see any difference in that short amount of time. Your B12 stores can take a long time to deplete, years even. So I'm not really sure why they tested this at all. I don't know. But yeah, as they say, take your B12. The vegans did lose more weight, which is good considering the participants on average were a little bit overweight at the start of the study, and not surprising given the vegans ate significantly less calories. Vegans also saw a greater drop in fasting insulin, although both groups had normal levels at the start of the study. The biggest finding, you'll never guess, LDL. While the omnivorous group saw virtually no difference, about 118 to 116, the vegan group saw a significant change, 110.7 to 95.5, which then puts them under 100 in the optimal range. I wonder why. Well, if we look in these supplementary materials, we can see for cholesterol, the vegans, of course, dropped their cholesterol significantly. But interestingly, the omnivores actually raised theirs significantly. And then for saturated fat, the vegans went down to 129 calories, which is about 14 grams, versus 209 calories, which is about 23 grams for the omnivores. That's just over the more forgiving guideline, 10% of total calories. So on a 2,000 calorie diet, that would be about 22 grams. It's well over the stricter guideline of 5 to 6%. That would be about 13 grams on a 2,000 calorie diet. Harvard suggests somewhere in the middle, about 7%. That would be 15.5 grams. Anyway, it turns out eating less saturated fat and less cholesterol lowers your cholesterol levels. Who would have thought? Finally, diet satisfaction. So this one, unfortunately, isn't surprising either, but like in the other direction. While the vegans, they liked the health benefits, they hated everything else. Maybe hated is too strong, but everything else, actually, I think cost stayed the same, perception of cost, but everything else dropped. The score was lower by the end of the study. Traditionally, studying vegans meant studying low-fat vegans, a low-fat vegan diet. This has changed because number one, we've acknowledged the lack of evidence for low-fat diets, and number two, low-fat doesn't seem to be very popular among vegans. So again, that German study, they were eating about 37% of total calories from fat. That is not low-fat. Now, they were choosing what to eat. These were vegans who were already vegan. In this case, these are just people who were told to eat a vegan diet. Luckily, the diet they were given does not restrict oil, does not restrict healthy fats. As a result, close to 40% of the vegans' calories came from fat. And yet we still see a significant positive change in LDL. The vegans' protein was kind of low, about 59 grams, which then dropped to 57 in phase 2 when they were no longer receiving pre-made meals. However, they were eating so few calories. I think it's less than 1,700. There's no data on physical activity, but I would guess most of them are not physically active, just going by the calories. Exercising, eating more calories would significantly increase protein. It's a win-win. TMAO is kind of a byproduct of animal products. It's not really. So choline and carnitine? That's not right. It's embarrassing how many times I've had to look up how to pronounce this.
Carnitine.
Carnitine. There ain't no D, bitch. Anyway, when choline and carnitine are eaten by your gut bacteria then produces TMA as a byproduct, which then is turned into TMAO by your body. Because plants are generally low in choline and carnitine and animal products are generally high in them, you would expect to see lower levels in vegans. And we usually do, just not in this study. And that seems to be due to a few outliers, people with just unusually high levels. Once they were removed, you do see significantly lower TMAO levels for vegans. Now, whether or not that matters, who knows? There's some evidence suggesting a link between higher levels and increased risk for heart disease, but evidence is limited and inconclusive. In order to significantly differentiate the two groups, the omnivore group was instructed to eat a certain amount of animal products, specifically 6 to 8 ounces of meat, 1 egg, and 1.5 servings of dairy per day. Again, this is supposed to be healthy. This is what they considered a healthy omnivorous diet, and it does seem to be in line with USDA guidelines, with the My Plate guidelines. 3 cups of milk. What the fuck? I can't believe. How are we still promoting 3? Oh, wait. I know why. I know why we're promoting 3 cups of milk and 5 to 6 ounces of protein. And they do give like a lukewarm, hey, maybe some of that protein could be plants, but they don't say like, hey, make some of that protein plants. All of that protein can just be from animal products, and you're following the My Plate guidelines. So this is essentially what the healthy omnivorous group was following, and yet their LDL stayed the same. Which isn't terrible. What was it, 116? Many doctors would be perfectly fine with that number. They're not going to tell you to change your diet. They're not going to put you on statins or anything. I mean, look, if Americans ate that way, if they were able to get their numbers that low, we would see a huge drop in heart disease. As the researchers conclude, although our findings suggest that vegan diets offer a protective cardiometabolic advantage compared with a healthy omnivorous diet, excluding all meats and or dairy products may not be necessary because research suggests that cardiovascular benefits can be achieved with modest reductions in animal foods and increases in healthy-based plant foods compared with typical diets. Yes, but heart disease is still the #1 killer in the US, and we know diet and LDL play a role. Maybe it says something about the state of nutrition in this country when people following the healthy guidelines, the guidelines set out by the government, can't get their LDL in the optimal range. It could also just be that it's so hard to reduce saturated fat when you are eating animal products. When you're eating vegan, like unless you're eating lots of coconut, vegan cheeses made from coconut oil, you're going to have low saturated fat on a vegan diet. We see this reflected here. There's no change even when we look at phase 1 and phase 2. Whether they're receiving meals or making all of their own meals, saturated fat is low. But for omnivores, we see a significant bump in saturated fat once they have to start making all of their food themselves. And again, this is with ongoing help from dietitians. And that right there may be the best argument for a vegan diet just from a health standpoint, right? Ignoring animals, environment, all of that. It's not that a vegan diet is inherently healthier than a diet with very limited animal products. It's that it is just so hard to eat a diet with very limited animal products. Kind of a slippery slope thing, I guess. Once you're eating them, you're eating them. Of course, we have to talk about the limitations. So it's just one study. It's 44 participants. Basically all of them, that's not true, but a huge number of them are white ladies. It's only 8 weeks, although I don't think that really matters when we're talking about the primary outcome. When we're talking about LDL, you wouldn't expect LDL to just suddenly increase after a year or something. That's one of the things that's very easy to test short term. Whereas B12, again, it makes no sense to test B12 after 8 weeks. Unless they were low at the start and you're giving them supplements and making sure it's raised their B12. But if you're trying to see if it's gone down, doesn't make sense. Calories were not restricted. They could eat as many calories as they wanted, again, as long as they followed the guidelines. So the primary outcome, again, LDL, could just be due to that, eating less calories and weight loss. Remember, the vegans did eat less calories and they did lose more weight. But why did they eat less calories? Because of the diet, right? Because the diet has more fiber, it has more vegetables, it has more fruit, it has probably larger meals in terms of volume, in terms of the water in the meal. Lots of water, lots of fiber, you're going to feel full on less calories. You're going to eat less, you're going to lose weight. Just thinking about the amount of animal products they're supposed to eat, again, 1.5 servings of milk, 6 to 8 ounces of meat, I bet you that's like 500 calories. So yeah, 1.5 cups of milk, 2% fat, chicken breast without the skin, and 1 egg cooked, 545 calories. And that is not a lot of food. 1.5 cups of milk, you can put that in a glass, chicken or something, you could hold that amount in your hand. My point is, okay, maybe the results are because of less calories, but the less calories happened because of the diet. And we've seen LDL benefits elsewhere without weight loss. Again, that German study, all of the participants were healthy. They were all roughly the same weight, yet the vegans had significantly lower LDL. They also ate significantly less saturated fat. In the conflicts of interest section, it states that Christopher Gardner, again, this is the senior author, that he received money from Beyond Meat. I believe that is for this study, which did find favorable results for Beyond Meat. Christopher Gardner is also vegetarian. He might be vegan. He seems to use the terms interchangeably. He's been vegetarian for a very long time, so shill, right? We can't trust this study. It's a sham. It was just designed to make vegans look good, is what I assume carnivore people are saying. Carnivore creeps. First, as I quoted earlier, the conclusion is clear that this isn't necessarily because of veganism. You can significantly improve cardiovascular health just by reducing animal products.
The results were that vegans did better on a few things. LDL cholesterol dropped by 14 points in the vegans. Compared to the omnivores, they also lowered their insulin. They also lost a little more weight.
He just seems like a really honest, genuine guy. He does not seem like someone who is just trying to push a narrative. Again, he wants to test veganism against a healthy omnivore diet. He doesn't want to just put it up against a beef and butter diet just to make veganism look good. Okay, last thing, because it's just funny, I watched Shawn Baker's response to this study. For those who don't know, he's a carnivore creep. I'm just kidding, but he's a carnivore dude.
The study, who was it funded by? Well, in part it was funded by the Game Changers.
They weren't funded by Game Changers. They were funded by a foundation. I mean, you can see it there. They're funded by a foundation that also funded the Game Changers.
The omnivore diet had more refined grains and more sugar in the diet, right? That could be the whole thing, right? That could be the whole reason for it.
So several grams of sugar makes a difference, but the several grams, even more grams of difference in saturated fat somehow doesn't.
Yeah, and you can't really conclude anything about health long term on this particular study.
We're talking about someone who had no issues promoting essentially a social media survey as like evidence for the carnivore diet. Another great video exposing vegan propaganda. I love how vegan propaganda is capitalized. I don't know why I love that, but I don't know. It's great. In conclusion, this is a really cool quality study telling us basically what we already know, right? It's adding to the huge amount of evidence we have saying, hey, plant-based diets are healthy and they're especially good for heart health. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. Like the video if you did, and subscribe. Thank you so much to my patrons at patreon.com/unnaturalvegan and my members here on YouTube. I do post 2 exclusive videos for tier 2 members and patrons. I do a vlog, and then I also do a controversial video unrelated to veganism. My last one was on the chickenpox vaccine. The one before that was on the teacher strike here in Portland. So yeah, it's just a lot of different stuff. Anyway, thank you again. New video soon. So this video has actual participants in it, which is really fun. That's not something you normally see. And one of the participants who ate the vegan diet, she says she continued to eat vegan, I think she says for 6 to 7 months, and is now vegetarian.
I actually leaned into it and really loved it, and actually stayed a vegan for 6 to 7 months after the study was over.
Wow.
So it did make a really big impression on me.
Are you still a vegan?
I'm a vegetarian now.
So that's pretty cool. It's so, I guess it's not crazy, but like we have a grain recommendation, eat this amount of whole grains, but we don't have a bean recommendation. Like there's no encouragement of beans. I mean, again, you have that lukewarm, like, hey, try to get your protein from plant sources. And they have the, 1 ounce equivalents, the tofu, tempeh, peanut butter, right? Nuts and seeds and other beans. Again, you can still just get all of your protein from animals and then eat your whole grain. It's just weird. It's weird that there isn't a specific, like, eat this amount of beans. You don't have to eat beans to be healthy, obviously, but you sure as shit don't have to eat whole grains to be healthy. I guess it's just easier. We do so love our bread and our pasta and our rice and everything, and it's a big improvement to switch that over to whole wheat pasta. What else is this? The brown rice, whole wheat bread, right? Anything to help people get more fiber, because man, people just, they get no fiber. Oh man. Even this healthy omnivore diet, that's one thing I didn't mention. The amount of fiber they get, they're like barely there. They're barely getting enough. It was the same with the German study too, with the healthy omnivores. Yeah, it just seems like it's really hard once you're eating animal products, once you're eating, your serving of fish and your egg and your cup of milk or whatever, it seems to be really hard to just barely get enough fiber. I should also say that the 70 range, 70 or lower is recommended for people with a history of heart disease. Some people recommend that for everyone, but generally it's recommended for, again, people with a history. How do you get that eating animal products? How do you get 270 or below by eating very few animal products. Shocking, I know. This Eating Well, they have this low cholesterol diet plan for beginners, and a lot of the days have far fewer animal products than what the people were eating in the study, the healthy omnivore diet. Day 1 here, 12 grams of saturated fat, only 1 instance of meat here. No dairy, no eggs, nothing. 5-ounce container of plain Greek yogurt. This chicken salad, which has not very much chicken per serving. What's even the point of eating animal products when you're trying to be healthy? You get plain Greek yogurt and dry-ass chicken. Yum. Look what I found. Can you see that? It's my play button. I totally forgot about it, and it was not clean. Very dusty, and I don't know what else on it. It's kind of crappy me like not doing anything with it. Like I don't value my viewers, and I definitely do, but yeah, I mean before I couldn't put it anywhere because I was just right up against the wall. There wasn't really anywhere to put it, but now I kind of have some place to put it. I mean, not there. That can't be the final resting place. Maybe like here? Oh, okay, cool. I forgot to change my shirt. This shirt, I mean, you can see 2014. So, it's old. It's threadbare. I don't think I moved my arm. Yeah, I don't think you would have seen that. There's a huge hole right here. I can't believe I didn't change my shirt. Yeah, it's on its last legs, but like it's Cedar Point. Like I have no issue throwing away clothes. I just got rid of some pants that I think I've had them since like my late teens. They got to the point where, I mean, they weren't staying up because they were just like tattered. They're just falling apart. So I finally got rid of them. Like, whatever, I don't care. But it's Cedar Point. Like, I need to cut it out and just like, stick it to the wall. That's what will go there. Not my little trophy, but my old nasty Cedar Point shirt.